Good afternoon, friends and listeners. Tony Pellegrini here from Southern Utah University with our College of Education and Teacher Education Department, Elevating the Classroom, a Legacy in Teacher Preparation at SUU podcast. This is a podcast series dedicated to celebrating and exploring the century-long tradition of teacher preparation here at Southern Utah University. This series is designed to highlight the vital relationship between pre-service teachers and experienced master-mentor teachers in our K-12 schools. By sharing stories and insights from both sides of the partnership, our podcast aims to underscore the impact of this collaboration on teaching and learning in Utah and beyond. Lorraine and I are both extremely thrilled today to have a couple of guests in our midst today. We've got Emily Pereira from Utah Tech University and Alisa Peterson from Southern Utah University. And they are focused on the arts in education. The arts are absolutely critical to our growth and learning and development of our elementary students throughout the state. And what I'd like to do is give Alisa, give her an opportunity to go first and tell a little about herself, and then Emily next, and then we'll go to some questions. Does that sound okay, friends? Thank you.
Sounds great. Well, my name is Alisa Peterson. I've been teaching here in this college for, I think, 13 years, which is awesome. My position, I have a long title. It is the Beverly Taylor Sorensen Endowed Chair of Elementary Arts Education. And the cool thing is that Beverly Taylor Sorensen, she knew how important the arts were for young children, not just for middle and high school students, but also to have art in elementary schools. So she gave generous endowments to many of the universities in the state of Utah to make sure that we have professors here who are teaching art and arts integration for all elementary education majors in the state. So that's my job. I get to teach those courses and also provide professional development in the arts for elementary educators here at SUU.
Thank you,
fantastic.
Alisa. That is absolutely.
I wish we had that extended through secondary. More arts in secondary.
Oh, we need more donors. Emily, will you take a moment and introduce yourself as well, please?
Sure. My name's Emily Pereira. I have the same title as Alisa, but just here at Utah Tech University. I'm also really grateful to have this position. This is my second year as the endowed chair here at Utah Tech, but before that, I was teaching in a regular classroom, and I taught as a BTS teacher, so I taught in the classroom as well as where my role now, where I'm helping with professional development. So I taught as an arts teacher, I taught as a fifth grade teacher, and now I'm teaching at the university level. So.
Thank you so very much. I'm excited about our conversation today.
It's so good to have you both, Alisa and Emily. Thank you so much for being here with us. We kind of want to start off thinking about how educators integrate the arts into everyday learning to foster a culture of creativity in the classroom. And then what role do you believe creativity plays in the students' overall cognitive development? And I was thinking about this. I just think how the world is changing, and we're not challenging in our brains. We're letting AI do the creative work for us and the thinking for us. And so I think this is more relevant and more needed more than ever. So what do you think?
Emily, what do you think?
I think that you are absolutely right. And I think that the benefit of having the arts in an elementary classroom is the opportunity for students to play and to experiment and to take risks in learning. I think that we are always looking for ways to get the right answer, but the arts kind of takes that away from students in the best way, in the most enlightening way, where we find applications of things. I think it also just naturally feeds right into all of the types of skills that employers are looking for that are AI proof. Things like being able to collaborate, like being able to communicate, to be able to have literacy in what you're perceiving, to understand where your place is in the world and how you can take risks or how you can ask questions and search for answers that might be the thing that makes you stretch and actually do learning more than just reciting what the correct answer is.
Love that.
So Vygotsky says that our brain has two main ways of operating, and the first is a reproductive effort, and that means where we can just repeat back what we have seen, what we've heard and listened and felt through all of our senses. And the other one is combinatorial activity, where we're combining things that we've experienced and putting them together in ways that are new and that we haven't experienced before. And so we do so much reproductive things in school, which is amazing and really important, but then also we need to give our students the opportunity to put those ideas together in ways that are new for them or even new for the whole entire world. And so there's so many ways to do this, but we love doing this through arts integration. We love combining dance and music, theater, visual art with other subjects like math and social studies and science and language arts. And what I find is that when we do that, not only does it allow students to have the opportunity to think deeper, but it also helps them sort of get a love and passion for those subjects because they're able to experience them and express them in their own ways. When we use the arts in our classes, we're allowing children to tell us their own thoughts and ideas about the things that they're learning, not just trying to guess what my thoughts and my ideas are.
Alisa, I love what you shared about experience and love. With my own, I have 5 children of my own. I've got 11 grandchildren and I'm running from our podcast today to pick up one of my grandchildren at school and bring them home to grandma's. But in the truck today, I'm going to say, what did you learn at school? What did you love in school today? Tell me about what you learned and what you loved. And if they have experiences with art or math or science or social studies, but he's in preschool, and so he has a lot of art. He brought me his fan that he made for his little girlfriend, and it's just wonderful to see experiences. It creates that love.
Can I tell you an example?
Please.
So several years ago, I was introduced to a really cool kind of robotics system where there were servos and motors and lights and all different pieces that you could build something with and then code it in the computer. And you can code sensors to, if the sensor sensed a certain decibel volume, then a light would turn on. And I heard about one professor who taught professional development to elementary teachers using this coding hardware and then also coding the software. And I guess it didn't go over very well. And the teachers, did the exercises and they were done. But then in our program of Arts Fusion, we had a professional development event where we used the arts. And so we created dioramas that could move and talk and flash and blink. And I asked the teachers to create a diorama that represented a favorite book. And so maybe they had a cat that popped up out of a box. Or one teacher did a door that opened, and it was the door in the back of the wardrobe. And so it opened, and you could hear the sound of a cold, wintry day, and the curtains shook. And there was a lamppost that the light blinked on, and obviously that was The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. But what I found was that because the teachers were so excited about expressing these particular ideas, they learned the coding and the sensing and all of the things necessary to do more advanced work with the materials that we use. So because there was interest and passion based on something that they wanted to do, they pushed themselves to learn more and do more.
It's very motivating. Yeah. I've been doing a little research trying with memory. And so, of course, patterns and repetition are important, but as important is the novelty, right? Doing something novel and memorable. And that's where the arts, doing something with that, it makes it memorable. And so our retention increases if we will incorporate that with every subject, and you guys know.
Lorene, it makes it personal as those teachers share. Oh my goodness, I want to read that book. I want to I want to feel the wind. I want to see the light come on, and the passion that we have as teachers then gets communicated to our learners as well. We're ignoring you, Emily. Do you have anything to share? We don't want to.
No, you're good. I would add on to that. And I think that it works the same way for teachers. And I think that this is a great way for us to help teachers avoid burnout is when they get motivated about something that they're excited about. And even going through the process of learning something new, attending and learning about coding might not be something that might have been on their bingo card of things that they thought that they would know. But in diving into that, they can kind of refresh that desire and drive to learn and to have experiences and to step outside of a rigid curriculum and say, actually, this will hit all of these standards. Can this be a supplementary thing for whatever I'm doing? Or can I replace it completely with something that's more authentic and genuine for both the teacher who's excited about doing it and the students who will experience that excitement through their teacher?
I love this conversation because it leads us absolutely into the next question. We're talking about strategies and practices that you've seen. Emily, I'm grateful for your experience in the classroom and yours as well too, Alisa, where you have encouraged students to think critically and creatively through their engagement with the arts. How do these strategies differ across different age groups and different subjects? Could you address that for us, please?
Well, I'm going to introduce something that Emily and I have been excited to help bring to the state of Utah over the last few years. A few years ago, we went to a wonderful professional development in Washington, D.C., and we learned about making thinking visible, which is kind of a research project through
Harvard School of Education.
Yep, absolutely. Through the Project Zero at Harvard. And they put together a list of over 90 different thinking strategies that teachers can use in the classroom to help their students not just shut off and try to find the right answer, but to find out what they think, what they understand, and to really think deeply about concepts and information. And when we went to that training, we said, this exactly works well with arts integration. And so we brought those ideas back to Utah. And last year, we wrote a grant to the Utah State Board of Education to receive funding for over 60 teachers in the state of Utah and educational leaders to actually take a class from Harvard Project Zero, an online class that was 15 weeks. And that many elementary music, dance, theater, and visual art teachers learned about these strategies and how to use them in their classroom to help children think deeply and critically through the arts. And so, Emily, I set that up, but can you tell some examples? Like, what is a thinking routine? And tell us some examples.
A thinking routine is something that you can use. It can be perceived as an activity. So there are some of the thinking routines that teachers regularly use as an activity, like think, pair, share, things like that. Project Zero has a lot of guides to help implement those effectively, but it really lends itself to creativity and the arts because there is so much flexibility within it. There are no right or wrong answers. So one example of this is one that I really like, and it's called Step Inside. And that's a thinking routine, and it's things that you perceive, things that you know about, and things that you care about. So you can put up a piece of art, you can watch a performance. There are lots of different texts that you can use. You could use an actual physical book as well. And then you go into it and you say, what do you notice about it? What do you know about what you see? Or what do you know about what you've heard? And then what do you care about? Like, why is this important to you? And that really just takes it so that it becomes important to the student themselves. It's interesting when you're using it in a classroom because you'll sometimes get a variety of different responses that may be unexpected, but can tie in really easily to what you're teeing up for learning. It really allows students to enter into the learning at their own level and exactly where they're at. And it gives you a really quick way to assess what they know about the subject area. So all of those things are really nice for me. I'm not sure if there's anything else. That's one example I have, Alisa.
Yep, I have another example. There are so many, and with these thinking routines, it's a short list of questions or steps that you do with students, and you do them regularly in your class so that they become very routine for students. They understand how to think this way so that then they can do it on their own. But one that I really love is called 3-2-1 Bridge. And so you show some kind of provocation to the student. It could be a work of art, a performance, or listen to a song, read a passage of text. And then you ask the student to write down, 3 words that come to mind, 2 sentences, and then 1 metaphor or simile based on experiencing that provocation. And that's before there's any learning. And then you dive into it and you really learn about that subject with the students. And then they do it again at the end. They say, let's look at this painting again. We're going to do 3, 2, 1. And then the part that I think is so cool and so empowering for the students is that you compare, what did I start with and what did I get to after learning? How did my understanding change? And they call that the bridge. How did I grow? And letting students see that for themselves and talk about it with their peers is so empowering. And it's sort of a meta process where they're saying, I am learning and I am understanding how I learned. So anyway, I did want to say that we partnered with educators from BYU as well for this project. So Callie Phlox and Charlotte Hawkins, Melissa Dixon, and several others. So it's been a really exciting project to bring to the art educators in the state to help students think deeply through looking at and listening to and experiencing the arts.
I love that as a grandpa. I would love to have the teachers share that concept or that principle with me. So when I get little miles in the truck, I can say, now, what did you learn today? What did you start with? And what did you come away with? How powerful we can all cooperate. It's not just, yes, the primary is on the teacher's shoulders, but boy, as parents and grandparents, we have a lot that we can do to contribute and participate with our teachers.
And I'd want
a
to
really good one.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. There's one question that all of the Project Zero has in common, and it says, what makes you say that?
Oh,
And that's
yeah.
a great question to ask. I use that all the time as a parent now as well. When my sons say something, I'm like, oh, well, what makes you say that? And then they have to explain their thinking. And they've started using that with me as well. Well, Mom, what makes you say that? And then I have to explain the reason why I've made those choices. But it's been a really great way for us to understand where the thinking is coming from, or where our actions are beginning from.
We really want our students to have to give, or SU, our teachers to give their students real world experiences. Mm-hmm. And if we're creating learning activities that don't ask them to tell us what they're thinking and where their ideas are coming from, we're kind of communicating to them that we're turning off their ideas. But when they have a real world experience, and then they have to justify their choices or their ideas by what they're seeing or experiencing through that activity, their learning is just so much deeper and so much bigger. And Tony, you were saying that, the responsibilities on the teacher's shoulders and also the family, it's also, these thinking routines put the learning responsibility on the student as well, and they can see it for themselves. This initiative is called Making Thinking Visible, because the students can see what they're thinking and they can see what their peers are thinking, and the teacher can as well. It takes it off the page and puts it into the form that we can understand what the thoughts are.
It helps us use all of our senses
Right.
to be able to make that happen.
And that's powerful when the languages come. Students are hearing it at school. And then if the teachers have shared that with the parents, here's what we're doing. Can you ask your students these questions at the end of the day? What are you noticing? I've noticed that a lot more with our teachers. And then what makes you say that? Just like you said, Emily, like as a parent using that more, it's very powerful if they're seeing it in multiple spaces too, at school, at home, and then that really impacts the learning, doesn't it?
A strategy that goes along with what you said was one of the most basic ones. It's called See, Think, Wonder. And the art teachers that we work with use this with visual art quite a bit. But when you look at a work of art, it's easy to just, let your eyes pass over it and then you move on. But when we say, what do you really see? And we ask students to practice just naming what they see, not what it means yet, but what is it? I see a bridge. I see somebody ice skating. I see white on the ground. And then we say, what do you think? Mm-hmm. So they get to put their own ideas, what's happening and why, and then what do you wonder? So see, think, wonder. I wonder if those people are having fun. I wonder what's going to happen next. It's teaching them that if they take a moment to observe longer, that they can have more ideas and they can take a story somewhere in their own mind.
For sure. And rather just going through the motions, let's say you're driving in the car with your child or grandchild, rather than just driving, you ask that question. What do you see? What do you think? What do you wonder? And using that same pattern. Love that so much. Well, let's get to our next question. In your experience, how do arts-based activities help bridge the gap between different learning styles and backgrounds? And how can they be used to support diverse student needs?
Emily?
I think that using the arts is the poster child for choice and voice.
It is the answer, right?
Yeah, I mean, if
how.
all of the studies say we need to give our students choice in what they're doing, that differentiates for ability, it differentiates for product, it does a whole bunch of different things, and then makes them feel ownership about what they're saying, what they're producing, what they're showing. It really hits both of those things in a very strong way. I think it also allows students that maybe don't know how to do long division or can't sound out a word phonetically to participate in a really deep way where they can say, oh, I can see this on an image. I can feel this when I listen to that. I can understand what you're talking about because I can see the way you're moving. And so it helps build those abilities to understand takes away some of the pressures of, oh, you can't read, you can't do math, you can't, or I need to supplement this and this and this. I think it kind of levels the playing ground. And on the opposite end, for our exceptional students, those students sometimes don't know how to fail. And so giving them an opportunity to take a risk
Yeah.
and do something poorly, because when we're learning about the arts, when we're learning in the arts, there's a lot that we don't know. And that we just have to kind of try as we go. And I think that that's something that's unique about the arts as well, is that it's very normalized and everybody understands that it is very personal, that it's very subjective. And so I think that that's already built into the arts, and it's already expected that you're going to be learning new things in that space, and that there is space for risk taking. So I think that it really helps on all ends for accessing content.
And so just to add to that, I have a lot of students who say, wow, I have learned about universal design for learning in so many classes, and this is the first time I feel like I really know how to do it. Not just that I should, but I'm getting all these tools of how to do it, because you have like differing means of representation, and then different ways that students can express their own ideas back to you. So the teacher is teaching in all of these different modes, and the students can express their learning and develop their understanding in all of these different ways, multiple means. And then I think right along with what Emily was saying, there's such a good social aspect to learning through the arts. The arts teacher or a classroom teacher who is teaching through the arts with arts integration, you really have to develop a place of safety and comfort so students feel comfortable trying things that are scary that they've never tried before, moving their bodies or making voices in front of other people if it's a theater class or a dance. And so you create this social experience where they support each other through that trying. And then they can see students at different levels of ability succeed in the arts where maybe they aren't succeeding in other places. So that students get this credibility for their time in the arts and for supporting each other as well.
And builds confidence in other areas, right?
Yes.
I think we have to be really careful when we're talking about learning styles, because sometimes we label students, okay, you're this kind of learner, you're this kind of learner, and they think that's all, but just that, okay, maybe this one's the easy one for you, and so these are the other ones that we want to work to develop. And so as I've been working with our student teachers and pre-service teachers, I asked that question, do you consider yourself a creative person? And it's crazy how people think I have it or I don't. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And they just, oh yeah, I'm creative or I'm not creative. I can't do those things. But it's absolutely something we can develop. And I teach them that it's absolutely something you need to develop if you feel like you aren't a creative person, because teaching requires creativity, and you need to require it of your students. So I love that we're not boxed in, right? And there can be infinite growth in our creativity and through the arts.
I'd love to respond to that. In my arts integration course, we learn about a book called Your Creative Brain by Shelley Carson, and she's a neuroscientist, and she has outlined 7 different ways that we think, different areas or parts of our brain that we're using throughout the creative process. And she said when you lay them all out, all 7 of them, you can isolate the ones that you're already good at and the ones that you're not. And if you improve the 1 or 2 that are harder for you, all of your creativity improves. And I think with my students, they say, wow, I never thought I was creative, but I'm good at all of these things. So if I just practice this, it's things like envisioning or being able to go into the flow state or being able to reason or evaluate, make connections. All of those are different ways of using our brain, but we think those ways through the creative process. And she said that people who are creative can access all 7 and sort of move back and forth as you need to. So practicing those ways of thinking help us develop our creativity as a whole. And so I tell my students, build these ways of thinking into what you're doing all the time, and you'll help your students strengthen their creativity as well.
Yeah, got to model it and then, expect it. I love that.
Powerful. I could sit here all afternoon. This is wonderful, Emily and Alisa. Just absolutely wonderful listening to you. But we do have to wrap up. But I do want to just leave with one question that I haven't prepared you for. It's going to be easy, I promise. And then Lorene will kind of close up for us. But Emily, Alisa, many of our listeners are our learners. We steer them to these podcasts to listen to great minds across the spectrum. What words of wisdom would you have for our learners in in approaching education of young people today? I know I'm putting you on the spot, but that shouldn't be too far. That shouldn't be too fast of a ball for you.
Well, I'm going to say that keep learning, and keep your passion up. And you can do that through the arts, but also, I guess the more that you think about thinking and the more that you think about helping and empowering children to think, the more exciting being a teacher will be. And I know that through the entire state of Utah, because of Beverly Taylor Sorensen, you can access completely free to you professional development in arts and arts integration. So if this is a topic that sounds like you want to know more, you have so many opportunities in Utah to grow your understanding of how to use this kind of teaching in your practice.
Thank you. Emily.
Yep. For me, one thing that has kind of become more present, which we've touched on these themes as I've moved through my educational career, is at the beginning of my career, I was never really thinking about what students were thinking about. What is going to engage their heads, their hearts, and their hands? How are you going to get their hands dirty? How are you going to get them to care about it? And what are they thinking about while they're doing those things? And I think when you have all three of those things engaged, you're really going to have an effective classroom. Your behavior is going to go away. Your test scores are going to go up. You're going to see improvement if you have all three of those things. And I think that that's where my passion lies, is making sure that the arts is part of those three things in the classroom. And as a parent and as an educator, I see it in students when they are getting their hands dirty and figuring things out, that's where the learning is happening. So,
Thank you.
That's fantastic. Alisa, you mentioned some resources. Just quickly, a couple places they could go to access those resources.
Yep, BTS Arts, so btsarts.org. Also, I think if you go there, that's a good hub. You'll be connected with all of universities that partner with that program, and we have more resources on our website. So my program is called Arts Fusion. Emily, yours is called?
ours is Utah Tech, BTS Arts at Utah Tech. We're just changing the name.
Excellent. But you'll be able to, btsarts.org will be a hub. It will tell you about the arts education program in our elementary schools, but then also lead you to lots of great resources.
Thank you. That'll be valuable for listeners. So we appreciate you and sharing your expertise and your experiences. I feel like this is something that is needed more than ever with, we're just inundated with AI, and we still want to challenge our brains and our minds and increase the creativity of ourselves, not only for ourselves, but also for our students. So love the conversation. Thank you so much. Just in conclusion, here we're at Elevating the K-12 Classroom, a legacy of teacher preparation at SUU. We not only honor the longstanding tradition of excellence at Southern Utah University, but also we try to shed light on the powerful connections that shape the future of education. Through engaging content and compelling stories like the ones we've heard today, we hope that this podcast will provide valuable insights into the transformative journey of pre-service teachers and their mentors, celebrating their shared commitment to fostering educational excellence. Thank you so much for being here with us today.